What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today we're talking about the Day of the Devs presentation that we just got this afternoon. They always do one around the time of the Game Awards, and in my opinion, it's always a show that can go toe-to-toe with the TGAs. Well, maybe not in terms of name brands and announcements and series that we recognize, but in terms of interesting games and interesting development stories, I think the Day of the Devs presentations are unparalleled, and I think we got a pretty good one here today. So what I'm going to do is go through my 15 favorite games that I saw at the Day of the Devs showcase today. And of course, if you are interested in any of these games, go wishlist them on Steam. And if you're just interested in the idea of discovering some cool new indie games, check out the Day of the Devs presentation that just took place today. I'll leave the link to the presentation and to the Day of the Devs website in the comments below. And if you check out the Day of the Devs presentation, you will get to see Tim Schafer in a Santa costume. So even if you don't care about indie games, you have to check it out for that alone. I mean, that is worth the price of admission. And of course, these 15 games are not the only interesting games that were shown off at the presentation, nor are they the only games I was interested in. Just wanted to have a round number for the video. So all of those reasons are reason enough, I think, to check out the full presentation that I will have linked below. But we've got 15 indie games to talk about, so let's not stall anymore. Let's get right into the 15 games that caught my eye the most from this year's Day of the Devs Game Awards showcase. The first game that caught my eye was Oasis. This is a 1 to 4 player dungeon brawler, and what caught my eye here was this cartoony, vibrant art style. It's not something you usually see in this type of game. It looks like the type of art direction you'd see in a 3D platformer, not a gritty dungeon crawler. And speaking of 3D platformers, this game has a movement system pretty similar to them too. They showed off in their trailer that you can jump and float around and swing your sword and just kind of bounce around these maps while you're fighting enemies. So it's a very interactive, expressive battle system that you have in this dungeon brawler, and that seems like a lot of fun. Plus, like I said, you can play it with 3 other people if you'd like as well. I'm sure that would be a lot of fun. But yeah, I feel like the Day of the Devs presentations always have a lot of games with great art direction, and this one is no exception. The second game I want to highlight here is Rock Beasts. This is a punk rock inspired rhythm game and management sim, a very odd combination. You play the role of a manager of a 90s rock band, and you have to talk to producers and set up gigs and talk to the media and deal with interpersonal conflicts within the band as their manager. But you also get to play as the band when they do shows, and then you rapidly shift from management sim gameplay to kind of rhythm Guitar Hero type gameplay. And I think that's a really cool combination, right? This is a really well thought out and well developed concept. Also love the art style here. It is almost something you'd see on Adult Swim, right? It reminds you of like BoJack Horseman or something. And this is the only game shown off today, I believe, that is officially coming to Switch 2. To be fair, most of these games probably will come to Switch 2 eventually, because I think a lot of them are years off, right? We saw some early footage from some of these games, but it was nice for them to say that specifically. The next game we've got here is Stretchmancer, which is a very quirky puzzle platformer where you can stretch and squeeze the environment, and that's how you solve puzzles and progress through the world. The prototype of this game apparently won an award at some game show, and you can see why. It is a crazy looking kind of game. The way you can distort and twist the environment to make a level work for you and solve the puzzle how you want to solve it is honestly mind-blowing. Like, there's this one part in the trailer where they make a jump and then squeeze the room so the jump lands, and then squeeze it back out to have a platform to land on, and then they do that again to get to some door at the other side. I do wonder if it's going to be a little nauseating, like how distorted and crazy everything is when you're squeezing and stretching constantly. But just in terms of a concept, this is an incredible idea for a platformer. I also love the quirky voice acting. It reminds me a bit of Thank Goodness You're Here. Obviously not that same sort of British voice acting, but just in terms of the quaintness and the goofiness of the voice acting, especially by your main sidekick who talks to you a lot. It definitely reminded me a bit of that game. I think this game is going to have a lot of charm. It seems really cool, so definitely one I'm keeping my eye on. Virtue and a Sledgehammer is the next game I want to talk about. This was a world premiere, and this is a narrative-focused action and deconstruction game. You're equipped with, guess what, a sledgehammer, and you have to destroy the world around you, either to defeat enemies or to unlock memories of your past. It seems like you're exploring your childhood home and town, and you're kind of destroying all of the remnants to remember your past, or confront it, maybe more accurately. And they talked about in the trailer how they've created this incredibly detailed and realistic destruction system, and obviously that reminds me of DK Bonanza, right? Just how fun it was to wreck stuff and destroy the world and just kind of forge your own path that way. This game obviously seems a lot more focused because it is a narrative-driven game, but I think it's still going to be a whole lot of fun to just break down buildings and see them crumble to the ground as you destroy them with your sledgehammer. I also like the art style here. It's a little bit weird, takes a second to get used to, but it's this fun combination between pixel and 3D, but not voxel, right? Where it's so obviously pixelated. It's this 3D environment and these 3D models with pixelated textures on top of them. Definitely gives this game an unsettling vibe, and off-kilter vibe, and that's certainly what it's going for. But this is one that I'm definitely looking forward to. Seems really fun, seems really odd. Can't wait to see more. We then got another world premiere, and this is called Un-Me. This is being published by Shueisha, who publishes some really cool stuff. So anytime I see them pop up, my interest is definitely piqued. And they said at the end of this trailer that we hope to deliver you a game you've never played anything like before. And just watching this trailer, I think they are achieving that goal, because this game is weird as heck. They said it wasn't quite a horror game, but more so a psychological examination, because it explores themes of anxiety, and it seems to discuss how we all deal with different types of anxiety at different times, and it's not always something you can express to someone else because it's so bizarre and hard to deal with and hard to explain. And I think this game is really touching on that, because you have these 3 different souls that they called it, and you switch between them at random, and that changes the world around you and also changes the anxieties that you have. And I don't know if this is like a multiple personalities thing that they're exploring, but on a simpler level, it could just be exploring the fact that we don't always feel anxious about the same thing all the time, right? Our anxieties manifest in different ways depending on the time of day, depending on what we're doing, right? The human body and mind is a weird and unpredictable one, and I think Un-Me is digging into that in a very fascinating way. Not to mention the vibe of this game is just so eerie. Again, they don't call it a horror game, but I might take issue with that because it's bloody and it's weird and it's off the wall and it's scary, and there's a bunch of crazy ghosts attacking you at one point in the trailer. Like, I think this is going to be a scary game. Maybe I'm just a wimp, but speaking of anxiety, I think this game might give me anxiety, but in a good way, because it seems really cool. Next game here is Soundgrass, and this game has a really interesting story. It's the first game from a solo dev who's not a game developer, at least they don't come from that background. They're a musician, and the idea for Soundgrass came from a postgraduate thesis. And they learned game development after being inspired to make this game just so they could bring their vision to life. And I think that is really cool. And as you might expect, this is a game that revolves around music and sound. It's a puzzle-based sort of walking sim game where you control a sphere that you sort of move around the world to manipulate the environment and hear different sounds at different angles to progress. And again, this is a world based off of sound, so most objects, most pieces of the environment are going to react to the sound that you can create and change and contort, and all sorts of crazy stuff is happening in this trailer around that. And I can't wait to see how this game progresses and builds on this idea, because it's a very simple concept. You saw in that trailer a lot of wacky stuff comes out of it. It seems like a very cool idea, The vibe here is great too. It's very muted, very dim, but there's still a lot of colors. There's still a lot of bright lights, and it's got really good contrast, right? So I think it's going to be a fun one to just immerse yourself in, especially because it's focusing so much on the auditory experience. Can't wait to see more about this one as well. The next game we've got here is the Dungeon Experience, which I will say is not a very good name, but the game seems really great and really unique. It's this first-person puzzle adventure game, it seems like, and you have a crab sidekick who's very witty, very goofy, always cracking a lot of jokes. I was giggling a lot watching this trailer for sure, and it almost looks like a surrealist or absurdist art piece at times with how random things are just interacting with each other in these colorful, saturated rooms, and I'm really interested to see how the gameplay flows here, because it wasn't really clear to me. Maybe I was just too distracted by the silly crab that was talking all the time, but I definitely want to see more of this one just to see how the gameplay loop feels. But as it stands, it looks like a very funny game, which is something that I think a lot of games struggle with. Some games try to be funny and aren't. This game is trying to be funny, very obviously so, but I think it succeeds, at least in this 2-minute trailer, and I can't wait to see more. The next game that stood out to me was Myria. This one looks really cool. It's this sort of atmospheric puzzle game where you play with perspectives and the environment. It might be the most striking art direction of any game in this presentation, which is certainly saying something, but it's got these really beautiful neon gradient color schemes with great sound design and a catchy soundtrack as well, it seems. And the game asks you to play with the environment and sort of rethink what you think you initially see, right? Never taking anything for granted and always looking in every little corner and using every tool at your disposal to unravel the mysteries and the puzzles of these areas you're exploring. It just seems like a game you could get lost in for hours at a time, just finding every little detail about it, right? And clicking everything that can be clicked and opening doors and interacting with every possible thing you can. And games with stark contrast often aren't very easy on the eyes, but this one is very pleasant to look at. I think Soundgrass and Myria both accomplish that goal, where they have a lot of contrasting darks and lights, but they also aren't harsh on your eyes. I think that's something some games struggle with. These two certainly do not, and I'm really excited, especially for Myria. This might have been my game of the show. Just so beautiful, so atmospheric. Can't wait to see more. I've been saying that a lot, sorry. Can't wait to see more. Yeah, I bet you can't. It's the point of the video. Anyway, I literally just said Myria was my game of the show, but God, Big Hops might actually be my game of the show. Day of the Devs released a teaser trailer for the presentation yesterday, and they showed off some of the games that were going to show up in this presentation, and the one that caught my eye the most was definitely Big Hops. This game looks awesome. It's this 3D platformer with all sorts of unique mechanics. In one shot, you're using your tongue to swing around the world. In the next shot, you're climbing and riding a minecart. In the next shot, you're slinging yourself across the world or swimming in bubbles up a tower. It almost feels like a 3D Mario game wherein you are going to experience all of these different ideas and all of these different mechanics. You're going to be overloaded with them. It just seems so darn creative, and it's pairing that with a beautiful, vibrant, cel-shaded art style. I just cannot wait to dig in to this 3D platformer. You guys know I love 3D platformer games, and this one seems like it could be a real gem. The best part about Big Hops 2 is, unlike a lot of games in this presentation, it's coming out soon. In fact, in just a month. January 12th is when it releases, and you know I'm gonna be there day one. The next game is one of two shadow drops we saw today. It's called Corgi Space. This is a game from a developer at Finji, who is one of my favorite indie publishers in the game. They've published Night in the Woods, Tunic, Wilmo Works It Out, among others. And this is someone who was a developer on Night in the Woods and Tunic. And he talked about how he's worked on all of these big games, but he wanted to make something a little smaller, and so Corgi Space was born. It's a collection of retro-inspired arcade games, but they all have more depth than you'd expect. For instance, there's a Metroidvania where you can't jump, and a Tetris-like puzzle game with roguelike, run-based progression. Each of these games seems small, but they also seem really well thought out, and I I think they're all going to have a lot more depth than you'd expect. And like I said, it's out now and only $5 on Steam. So this is one I might pick up after we're done here, even though, Lord knows I don't need to buy more games, but God, that one looks good. So out now, definitely check it out if you are interested. The next one here was another world premiere, and this was a big surprise. Into the Fire, a game from the creators of The Invincible, which is this really cool atmospheric space walking sim type game. It's on PS Plus, so if you have PS Plus Extra, you could play it right now. And their next game, like I said, is called Into the Fire. It's this construction survival game kind of thing. Maybe construction isn't the perfect word, but you explore and sort of rebuild this island destroyed by a volcanic eruption. You're a firefighter type figure, but not exactly. And your weapons are water pumps and extinguishers, and you've got to clear out this fire and defeat fire type enemies. Like in one shot, there's this fire bat type enemy you've got to defeat, and you've also got to find survivors and rescue them. And you use this item that tracks people's voice. You call out and it like reflects the vibrations back to you so you know where to go next, which is a crazy item. That's so cool. I also like the art direction here. It seems realistic at first, but it has a stylized flair to it. And if something's covered in smoke or far out in the distance, it's got this thick outline to it. And I think it's a really cool art direction to take this game in because, like The Invincible, it is trying to be more realistic, more real to life, but it's got that twist and that charm in the art direction that really makes it stand out. This one's coming next year, and I believe they said it's coming into early access soon, so if you're interested, definitely check that out. This is one I'm going to have on my list for next year for sure. And that also means I've got to play The Invincible right before Into the Fire comes out. So that has definitely jumped up my list of games I am interested in from PS Plus. But from everything I've heard, The Invincible is awesome. So can't wait to dive into that. Can't wait to see what Into the Fire brings us next year. This next game was the other shadow drop of the presentation, and that is Dogpile. And this is a game that combines a lot of indie-type elements, genres that you will recognize being often used in indie games. It's sort of this combination of Suika game, right? That sort of combination puzzle game, deck building, and roguelike elements. So that's a lot. Those are a lot of words, but this is a game that, even though I don't usually like roguelites, no offense, looks pretty cool. It's got this really neat cartoon art style with so many goofy dog designs with incredible animations. And I think they use the cliches of the roguelite deck building genre in really creative ways here, making for some really funny interactions between these dogs that you're stacking. So all of that said, even though I don't usually like roguelites, wow, is that the third time I've said that? Get a new line, dude. I am interested in this one, and I might pick it up because it is out now and only $7. So pretty good deal on Steam. Definitely gonna look into that one later today. Our next game here is Moomintroll Winter's Warmth. This game is one that caught my eye yesterday when they did that preview trailer for the Day of the Devs presentation as well. It's got this incredible hand-drawn, watercolor-esque art style, and it's this sort of exploration platforming game where you have to help others in the world to progress. It's made by the same people who made Snufkin Melody of Moomin Valley, which is also in this Moomintroll universe, and people love that game. I've been meaning to check it out, haven't gotten around to it, but it seems really cool, and God, Moomintroll is just so cute. Apparently it's his 80th anniversary as well, so shout out to Moomintroll, the Finnish cartoon guy. Very cool. Love me some Moomintroll. It's cool that he's getting his own game as well, 80 years later, and I'm definitely going to check this one out. It just seems so cozy, so cute, and it seems like it'll have a cool story too. All right, this next game, I think, among the 15 I brought up today, is the one that you'll probably recognize, and that is Demon Tides, which has a lot of hype behind it. It is a follow-up to Demon Turf, which was a very beloved 3D platformer made by Fabraz a few years ago, and he is back making Demon Tides, which to me seems like Demon Turf, but fully realized, right? Instead of those 2D hand-drawn sprites, there's actual 3D, fully animated models. It looks so beautiful. It's incredibly colorful and vibrant. It's got a super smooth movement system that just seems like a blast to play around with. And it's got this incredibly catchy soundtrack as well. Just listen back to that trailer and tell me you weren't bopping a little bit. And the best part, it's coming out February 19th, 2026. Was supposed to come out this year, but I think we all realized it was going to need some extra time, and that's perfectly fine. Even though February is an incredibly stacked month for video games, there's so much coming out. I believe Resident Evil is coming out that same day on February 19th, which is absurd, but regardless, I am definitely going to check out Demon Tides when it comes out because it looks so darn good. And it must be mentioned that this is the guy making Bubsy 4D. So if you don't know Demon Tides, you might know Bubsy 4D. That got announced at Gamescom. That looks really good too, even if it is heavily inspired, I think, by Demon Tides. That game, by the way, is also supposed to come out next year. I don't know how that's possible, how he's going to release 2 3D platformers in a year. But I'm here to see Fabraz try, and I will definitely be trying both of those platformers out. The final game I want to bring up here is Find Your Words. This is going to be a free game, apparently, and it is inspired by the shared experience of the devs raising non-speaking children, which I think is a really cool idea to base a game off of. You play as this child who is nonverbal, and you go to this camp where there are other non-speaking children, and you have to use a communication binder to present symbols and communicate and find friends. It's got this really cute, cartoony art style that's almost something Japan Studio would make, you know? They also mentioned that this game is pretty short, which is something we could all use, right, in the day of 100-hour opuses of video games. Something that's short and free is always appreciated. So those were the 15 games that caught my eye the most from this recent Day of the Devs presentation. Again, there were more games that I couldn't mention just because, you know, I don't want this to be such a long video, and also I want you to go watch the presentation yourself. Again, Tim Schafer in a Santa costume, need I say more? And of course, the thing about indie games is they are very unique and personal, and different ones will resonate with different people. So be sure to just at least skim through some of the games that I didn't mention, or even ones that I did mention, get a closer look at those and see what you like. You know, you might find your next favorite game. I've definitely found some of my favorite games from these presentations in the past. And again, I will link the presentation below, as well as a link to the Day of the Devs website where you can find out more information about them. And again, they are nonprofit if you want to throw them a donation. I think what they do for the industry is really important. I sound like a shill, I know, but I really do think what they're doing is special and very needed these days in the gaming industry. So I just want to shout them out in that way. If I can find one, I'll also link a backlogged list of all the games presented at the Day of the Devs, so you can look at them in that way if you prefer that. But that's all I've got for y'all today. Tell me in the comments which game at Day of the Devs today was your favorite, and which game are you thinking of picking up, whether it be one of those 2 that shadow dropped today, some of the ones that are releasing in the winter, or other ones that are coming out in 2026 and beyond. Make sure to like the video, subscribe, hit that big fat button. It is going to be a busy few weeks for the channel. I've got a video in the works that you'll see at the end of December, as well as the usual list videos that come near the end of the year. So if you don't want to miss any of that, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit that freaking bell, and again, comment on this video your favorite game shown off today, or just how you're feeling. I don't know. It's a freaking party down there, and I'll try to respond to comments if you leave them. So make it a discussion, make it a discourse down below. And again, stay tuned for what's coming on the channel. Speaking of stuff on the channel, if you want to see my predictions for the Game Awards in terms of who will win or what will be shown off, I'll link those here or there, so you can check those out, or you can just go to my channel and find them. And if you just missed it, I released an hour-long video a few days ago giving a report card for Nintendo's 2025. There was a lot to talk about, and I think it was a pretty fun video, so I will link that there and there if you want to see it. Make sure to check that one out. I think it was pretty fun. Make sure to share the video with someone who's a big indie game fan or needs a few more to put on their wish list. And with all that said, I'll see you guys in the next one.